incentives. Today, we are going to be discussing the WatterSaver program. So this training will be geared towards introducing you to the program and then providing an overview of the program itself. And we'll also have some introductions to the WatterSaver team, and followed by a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So just a reminder, everybody in attendance is currently on mute, just to avoid any feedback noise and that type of thing. So if you do have any questions that come up throughout the presentation that you want to ask, feel free to just drop those into the chat, and we'll go through the questions during the Q&A section at the end of the presentation, where we'll have a chance to dive into them. So yeah, this is just a little bit of our agenda today. So first, we're going to do a quick introduction to the WatterSaver team, just so you could understand who is running the program, and you can have some association there. Like I mentioned, we're going to provide an overview of the program, and in that we'll be discussing the incentives that are available to contractors as well as customers. And we'll go through the enrollment process, how you can enroll your customers into WatterSaver to access these additional incentives for your customers and yourself as well. So, and then we'll get to the Q&A section, where we'll have the time to dive a little bit more into the specifics. So yeah, meet the team. We have Nick Durr with the Association for Energy Affordability, also known as AEA. They are sort of behind the WatterSaver program, and in partnership with Tech Clean California, which is administered by Energy Solutions. We also have Emily and Peter on the call here from Energy Solutions, who you may be familiar with through the Tech Clean California program. And myself, Joe Kaprosky. I'm the Contractor Services Field Manager for BayREN Home Plus. So I've probably worked with many of you in the past, but yeah, anything usually BayREN related to program applications, contractor enrollment, that type of thing, that's what I'm there to provide support for. So yeah, WatterSaver. So we did provide an outline of really what WatterSaver is in the invitation that went out for this training. So hopefully you all had a chance to review that. And there was also a link to a training video provided in that same email. Hopefully you had a chance to take the 13 minutes to watch it. That really kind of helps provide some context for today's session, and understanding the importance of load shifting and demand response and that type of stuff. So totally all right if you weren't able to view it. We're not going to kick you off the call or anything, but certainly encourage you to watch that video following today's training if you have time. That'll really help kind of tie it all together. But yeah, what is WatterSaver? So it's a new program. It's available to PG&E electric customers. And it's designed to help optimize the energy use and operation of electric water heaters, electric resistance water heaters, as well as heat pump water heaters, and provides rewards to customers and contractors for using energy more wisely. PG&E Electric, that would exclude like muni suppliers like Alameda or Palo Alto. It does not exclude CCAs. So if you're in San Mateo and the customer's enrolled with Peninsula Clean Energy, they're still considered a PG&E customer and would be eligible to take advantage of these additional incentives and still enroll. So what WatterSaver does is it uses Wi-Fi or cellular technology to connect remotely into the customer's heat pump water heater or electric resistance water heater, and automatically heats their water at lower costs. So it'll heat the water during those off-peak demand hours, like middle of the day, where the customer is able to heat their water at a lower tiered cost. So that they have hot water whenever they need it, and they're not overpaying for it. So typically, people are running showers and in the morning and the afternoon, as well as doing dishes and that type of thing. And that type of strain on the grid is what causes the increased usage or cost in electricity. So by heating the water at an off-peak hour, you're still experiencing the same comfort you're getting with a heat pump water heater, but paying less for it. So there are incentives available to contractors for enrolling their customers in WatterSaver. So these incentives are available through Tech Clean California. So you will need to be enrolled as a tech participating contractor to access these incentives. And the incentives that are available are, there's a $200 incentive available for installing a thermostatic mixing valve with your heat pump water heater. Many of you are aware that this incentive is currently out there and you're already taking advantage of it, which is great. And there's also a $50 contractor incentive for enrolling your customer in WatterSaver. So the idea would be you install the water heater, install the mixing valve, and then while you're still at the home with the customer, you're able to sort of walk them through the enrollment process with their laptop or computer, maybe even a smartphone or a tablet. But in doing so, that'll qualify the contractor for an additional $50 incentive. You may be aware the $200 thermostatic mixing valve incentive through Tech Clean California is going to be sunsetting on June 20th. So projects will need to be submitted, installed, and applications submitted by June 20th to qualify for this $200 incentive. At which point Tech will actually be requiring a thermostatic mixing valve to be installed with their heat pump water heaters in order to access the heat pump water heater incentives through Tech. So many of you are already installing thermostatic mixing valves and really understand the importance that that device has in the heat pump water heater system in optimizing its performance. So again, if the training video does outline, sort of the importance of the mixing valve even further. So encourage you to watch that, but I know that most of you are already installing them with your heat pump water heaters because you already understand the importance of the mixing valve. And yeah, it helps optimize the performance of new water heaters, which will result in more satisfied customers as well. So I'm not sure if you've experienced it before, but sometimes, we've had some contractors where they're new to heat pump water heaters, and they install the heat pump water heater without a mixing valve, and then maybe the unit is not performing to the customer's expectations, and you sort of are in a position where you're trying to problem solve after the unit's been installed, and sometimes the mixing valve is an important piece of that performance. So installing the mixing valve during the initial installation of the heat pump water heater is much cheaper than installing a heat pump water heater and then trying to install the mixing valve after it's already been installed. It's generally much more expensive. So install it the first time and you're good to go. So I mentioned there's a $50 enrollment bonus for the contractor once you walk the customer through the enrollment online. But there's also a $50 gift card that the customer will be eligible for as well once they complete that enrollment. So sort of a two-way incentive there. It's a $50 incentive to the contractor and a $50 gift card to the customer, which everybody appreciates gift cards. And then in addition to the gift card, the initial $50 gift card, there's an additional $5 gift card for each month that they participate. So, and it'll be paid out on every 3 months. They'll receive another $15 gift card. So I know some similar programs will do like an instant discount on the bill, which usually, can go unnoticed, from the homeowner, but them receiving a gift card every 3 months sort of is a good reminder that they're optimizing the performance of their water heater and receiving some additional benefits by doing so. So it's a virtual gift card, so it's emailed to the customer. They have 30 days to download it, and then once they download it, it doesn't expire. So they could always, I know for me, I get a hard copy of the gift card, I lose it, or it's got a couple bucks left on it, I forget about it. But the virtual gift cards are nice because you can just access it online and load it up to your Amazon account or whatever, and it's always there. So just some eligibility requirements for the tech contractors in order to enroll their heat pump water heater customers into WatterSaver. Must be installed in a single family home in BayREN territory. The thermostatic mixing valve must be installed with the heat pump water heater to earn the thermostatic mixing valve incentive. Kind of goes without saying, but just to highlight it again, contractors, they must enroll the customer in WatterSaver at the time of the heat pump water heater installation and install a thermostatic mixing valve to earn the enrollment incentive. So this is not so obvious. You do have to install that thermostatic mixing valve, enroll the customer while you're in the house. That'll qualify you for the $50 contractor incentive. Yeah, any contractor enrolled in Tech Clean California can receive these extra incentives if installing heat pump water heaters. So pretty simple. We'll do in a few slides, we'll do a quick walkthrough on what that enrollment looks like, just so you could better understand the contractor experience. Because I know, when you're in the house, and you're on the way out the door, any additional step can really, complicate things. And the day's not over usually when you're in the truck and going back to the shop. There's usually some paperwork follow-up or cleaning the truck out type of thing. So really understanding the process and help streamline it and get you that extra $50 for each one. So equipment eligibility, the heat pump water heater must be able to be controlled remotely. So our WatterSaver team is not going into each house and preheating water on site. It will be tapped into remotely. Heat pump water heaters are the Ream Rude model, ProTerra models are Wi-Fi enabled. So those ones can be accessed just by registering the device online. But as you know, there's A.O. Smith has a grid capable unit that has an add-on attachment that plugs into it. But beyond that, there really isn't many Wi-Fi enabled heat pump water heaters in the market. Bradford White's working on it, but for the units that don't have that Wi-Fi capability, WatterSaver does provide this device, which is shown in the photo to the right. It's a CTA 2045 module called EcoPort. And if the project requires the installation of one of these, WatterSaver will provide it at no cost. So yeah, I mean, that's it. We'll now kind of walk through what the enrollment process looks like. So this is pulling the computer up, the smartphone, whatever, enrolling the customer. This is just going to provide some snapshots of what that experience looks like. So again, we're going to be sharing out this slide deck with everybody. So don't feel like you have to take notes or anything right now. Also, the training that was shared out that we encourage you to watch following this, if you haven't done so already. It does dive into this a little bit more. So that's also a resource available to you as well. But yeah, so this is just screenshots of what the WatterSaver enrollment looks like. You will need a copy of the customer's PG&E bill on hand. Often you're gathering that anyway, just to check their program eligibility. or if they're enrolled with a CCA that qualifies them for an additional heat pump water heater incentive. Often that's a part of the process anyway, so that really shouldn't be an additional step, having to get the customer's PG&E bill, although sometimes it's difficult if they don't have the bill on hand and they don't often log into their online account. It can, sometimes take a couple of minutes to get that started. But once you have it and you're on the WatterSaver website, this is what it looks like. You type in the name on the PG&E account, first and last name, email address, phone number, pretty basic information. Confirm that you're not a robot, and customer information. It'll just validate the address, PG&E account number, service agreement ID. That's why we'll need the PG&E bill to obtain this information. You're not going to find that outside of the PG&E bill, so that's why you'll need to get a copy of that as part of this enrollment. The make and model of the water heater, serial number. Again, you're on site, so sometimes the serial number is difficult to find after you've already left, and now you need a photo of it or something. But you're still on site, so you should have that information readily available to you. And then just some basic questions. How did you hear about the program, and some terms and conditions that will need to be acknowledged. And then you will choose your device and answer a mixing valve question. Does it or does it not have a mixing valve? One thing I meant to mention on a previous slide, and this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but we are going to be sending out a communication to all of our heat pump water heater contractors in BayREN. We will be requesting that you submit a photo of the thermostatic mixing valve along with your BayREN application documents, so that when we forward that project to tech for processing the additional tech incentives, they'll have that photo on hand, and they won't have to reach out to get that from you as the contractor. So we won't flaw the application, the BayREN application, if it doesn't have the mixing valve, but we will flag it for tech that they'll need to follow up with the contractor to get that photo. So if anything, if you submit a BayREN application without a photo of the thermostatic mixing valve, ultimately it could just delay the payment a little bit further, which we try to avoid whenever possible. So just include it if you remember, and that'll just help streamline things through processing. But yeah, back to the enrollment. So after clicking the button, it will redirect you to the REAM EcoNet login page. So this is then where you register either the REAM Root device or the CTA 2045 module. And then you're enrolled, and I believe following that enrollment, that will trigger the customer gift card that will then be sent to the email that was input. But maybe some of the folks from the WatterSaver team on the call here can clarify that process during our Q&A session. But and then, so that's enrolling the customer, and then as the contractor, to receive the additional $200 mixing valve incentive and the $50 enrollment incentive. This is just a screenshot of this is the tech rebate portal. So when you're in there applying for the tech incentive, you'll note that was a thermostatic mixing valve installed. Yes, it was. And did you enroll the customer in a utility heat pump water heater program? Yes, I did. If so, which utility program? On the drop down, this is where you would select WatterSaver as the enrollment. So yeah, so that's it. Any questions? That feel free. I'm going to go ahead and click unmute. So hopefully it doesn't cause too much chaos. But if anybody has any questions that you want to, feel free to speak up. ask away, or drop the question into the chat log, and we'll see them come through that way. But yeah, just try not to talk all at once, but feel free to jump in if you have any questions. Don't see any questions in the chat. So if you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. I know it's the middle of the day and everybody has places to be, things to do, so don't let us hold you up. Like I said, we will be sharing out this presentation later today or tomorrow, so thank you for attending. Also, we have a email address showing on the screen here for any questions. If you think of anything after today that you want to ask, that would be a good email to that. Cool. Yeah, like I said, feel free to drop off. I'm going to hang out for a couple extra minutes, so feel free to hang out with me. If not, thanks for joining in today. I do see we have a question here in the chat from Ruben. Better understand how the WatterSaver commands interact with the customer selected temperature scheduling. Can anyone speak to that? Maybe
I
Nick?
can take that.
Yeah, sure.
Hey everyone, this is Nick Durr from AEA. So good question, Ruben. So essentially, users will, it kind of depends on the actual product, whether they're using a Rheem or A.O. Smith or Bradford White or others. They're all a little bit different. But essentially, the homeowner has their sort of preferred set point that they keep it at. And that's the normal operating temperature that the heat pump water heater will normally stay in. But what will happen, and this is why it's important to have a mixing valve on there, is during the middle of the day when we want the water heater to use the majority if it's electricity, the set point will be increased on the water heater, so that it'll heat up the water heater to a temperature higher than the customer set point, and that way we have a nice hot tank of hot water. And obviously the mixing valve is mixing it down to a safe temperature when it goes into the home's showers and faucets. And then during the peak time of use hours, the water heater set point will be dropped back to the user set point or maybe even slightly below it. And then the goal there is, since we preheated it essentially before the peak time of use hours, then it will operate hopefully very minimally between that 4 to 9 peak window, and minimize the amount of electricity consumption that's happening then. And then once we're out of the peak time of use window, so once we get to 9 o'clock, then it'll just go right back to whatever the customer had it set at for their standard set point.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Good question.
Yeah, and Ruben, what you're kind of programming it is very similar to what we'll be doing for most of the customers. I'm assuming there's a Rheem models you're using, so you're setting that schedule up on their EcoNet app, is that correct? So yeah, it will get overridden during that time. So the WatterSaver will be what's controlling it during those hours, but it's going to end up looking very similar to what you're doing currently. And then we're actively discussing with Rheem whether the customer's sort of schedule and WatterSaver's schedule can coexist. But right now, Rheem's requiring us the customer needs to turn off their schedule so that the WatterSaver can take priority. And so right now, in order for WatterSaver to be able to connect and control that water heater, the customer will have to turn off that schedule that you've already set up for them. The other thing it'll be doing is changing modes in addition to temperature. So, you know, when we're preheating the water, you know, up to something higher than set point from 1 to 4, you know, we'll do that in heat pump only mode so that it's only running the compressor, and then keep it in heat pump only mode as well during the 4 to 9 hours. But then outside of that, it can be the customer's preference. A question from Philip. Does a customer need to set their heat pump water heater up to an app on their phone to be able to sign up for WatterSaver? So for folks that are using the Ream product that has, you know, it's Wi-Fi compatible and it has the Econet, if that's how they want to connect their water heater, is via that Econet app and Wi-Fi, then yes, they will have to set up an Econet account and then actually connect the heat pump water heater to their home Wi-Fi. And their Econet login is what they'll use to also connect their Ream heat pump water heater to the WatterSaver program. For other heat pump water heater manufacturers that have Wi-Fi, I know more are planning to add it over time. It'll probably be a very similar setup where that heat pump water heater manufacturer has an app that they use to connect the water heater to the home Wi-Fi, and that will be what they use to also connect it to WatterSaver. Joe showed earlier, there's also that EcoPort adapter, the CTA 2045 module. That just plugs in to water heaters that have that port on the water heater. And that one is a cellular based control. And so once that control is installed on the water heater, you'll have a little LED signal saying like, yes, I'm connected to a cellular signal. That's the only thing that they would need to do. And then there'll be an opportunity to enter that the serial number of that EcoPort on the enrollment form, and then we'll be communicating through that EcoPort adapter via cellular. So they will not have to be connected to the home Wi-Fi or provide their water heater app login if that's the way that they want to connect their water heater.
Great, thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Joe. And feel free, you know, we have the email address on here, so we definitely want to hear feedback from you all as contractors. You know, what works well and also what doesn't work well. We're definitely open to feedback and trying to figure out ways to improve opportunities and you know, contractor engagement and certainly homeowner and customer engagement. So definitely want to hear back from you on what works and what doesn't. Also, if you're, you know, consistently installing certain product lines, makes and models of heat pump water heaters, and you want to know what are the different connectivity options for those water heaters, reach out to us and we can discuss with you. That way you have a sort of a plan for each of your installs on what's the quickest and easiest way to get that connector, that customer connected to the program. A few more in here from Ruben. Has your team already finalized the temperature schedule you'll be using? If so, are you able to share? Maybe we need to switch that schedule for non-WatterSaver customers for uniformity of messaging. Yeah, that could be a discussion that we have offline. The program is just now launching. We have about 10 folks enrolled, and then we're ramping up the number of folks enrolled. I think what we're all curious to see is what is the right schedule. You know, I think we have a general idea, you know, similar to what you've worked out. I have a similar schedule in my own home water heater. But the nice thing is we'll be able to actually see what the water heater's electricity consumption is on an hourly basis. And so I think we're gonna come up with a very standardized schedule that's similar to yours, but based on how water heaters are performing across all participants, I think we're gonna find what's sort of the best practice for those schedules. And I think those general learnings can definitely be shared out with the market for contractors and other interested parties. So definitely open to continuing that conversation. And a question from Philip, is there a support person we can contact to help setting up the first few? Absolutely. Reach out to that email address on there, support@water-saver.com. And myself, as well as my colleagues, Megan and Jake, will be there to help walk you through those first few, and then hopefully from that point on, it'll be super easy for you all.
Cool. I have a quick question, Nick. We have a similar program, well, there is a similar program in Sonoma called Grid Savvy. That's a load shifting demand response type of program. Can a customer, if a customer is enrolled in Grid Savvy, can they also be enrolled in WatterSaver? And like, what would that look like?
Good question. The answer is yes and unknown. So there's no, a customer can be enrolled in Grid Savvy and WatterSaver. There's nothing preventing them from sort of like a program rules or CPUC rules requirements. They can be enrolled in both, and that's just fine. What we have yet to be 100% certain on is whether a device can be connected to more than one program. Initial testing has shown it is possible for a water heater to be connected both to Grid Savvy and WatterSaver, but as we all know, as you start to do more of these things, we're not totally certain if that's always going to be okay, or if we're going to have any issues where if a water heater is connected to both, we might have some connectivity challenges. But what I would encourage folks to do is go ahead and enroll your customer. If we're having issues with the water heater being connected to more than one program, then we can work those discussions out directly with the water heater manufacturer and with the folks up at Sonoma Clean Power.
Cool, thanks, Nick. I don't see any other questions in. So that may conclude things for today. Feel free to drop off. I'm going to hang out for just a couple more minutes in case any other questions trickle in. But thanks again for joining in today. I know it's kind of tough to find a time that works for everybody, especially when we're all busy. So certainly appreciate everybody making time today to come together.